This is the tale of an alien ladies' man who was green and whose name was Bizzleban. His planet was decent, but there was one thing he hated. Talking to women made him feel agitated. He tried convincing himself that the females were ugly. Their faces deformed, their bodies disgusting, yet he still felt a sting when he was rejected. Connections were formed, but the ladies weren't interested. He wasn't a simp and he never had been. Yet he wasn't treated the way that he wanted to be, which resulted in him feeling dejected, you see.
My lord,
he said in his alien language.
I need me a lady. Someone really worth loving.
But as you now know, his dating life sucked. So he started in a spaceship for a world where he'd have better luck. Soon enough, the AI on his ship detected a blue and green rock. It possibly had the same air pressure as his home, Surisak.
A water world, huh? Well, mermaids are hot.
His ship became invisible as it flew down to the grass.
I sure hope that the life here breathes the same gas that I do.
He checked using his ship's AI and saw that he'd be alright. Then, he turned on his translator implant and searched for the sea. His species was semi-aquatic, so he knew how to swim. Soon enough, though, he learned humans weren't amphibious. That happened when Bizzleban found a town not in the ocean, but instead on dry land. It was disappointing yet relieving that these people also had legs. Even now, he couldn't embark on his mission to find a kind lover. He first had to see how these creatures treated each other. After all, perhaps people were much meaner here. Perhaps this watery sphere was filled with slaughter and fear. But this was incorrect, as he would soon see two doting parents tending to their baby. Bizzleban gasped. His species didn't tend to their young, not like this. They left their offspring in ponds, but not to be remiss. Surisakian parents did it for the young children's development, as it was best for their health, and most liked the wealth to have a pond for themselves. Enough about culture. Let's get back to the tale. Bizzleban was so happy he started wagging his tail.
Now I have to learn what the females look like, and also the males. My disguise has to look right.
And so the alien wandered and waited so that when the time came, he could talk without getting frustrated. But unfortunately, people used their phones a wee bit too much. Consequently, he wasn't sure if he'd learned enough. Nevertheless, he yearned for a mate, and he knew that with time, his grasp on their culture would become great. So, through his advanced knowledge of how the universe works, he magically shapeshifted and possessed no outward quirks. The alien continued to lurk, but now due to shyness. Sure, he looked human, but he still felt the same. Bizzleban was worried he'd be rejected again. Eventually, though, his pursuit began.
Good morning,
he said to a young adult man.
Could you please tell me where I could find the most women?
Bizzleban was given a puzzled look and a hesitant response.
Well, dude, maybe you should go to the park.
How do I get there?
If you keep walking this way, you'll see the entrance near a landmark.
Alright, thank you, dude,
he murmured, unsure what a dude was.
Yeah,
the young man assured him.
And no problem.
And so, Bizzleban made his way to where he thought the ladies would be. You can imagine his shock when he saw next to nobody.
How strange. I guess I'll just have to walk around.
And he did just that until a tall kid said something unsound.
Yo, where'd you get that drip from?
Bizzleban didn't have to look down to know he wasn't wet, so he was clueless as to where the water was at.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Your jumpsuit, man. It looks so freaking cool.
Thank you, kid, but I couldn't tell you where I got it.
Oh, come on, bruh. I've got plenty of money. I'll pre-order if I have to. Your drip's just insane.
Once again, Bizzleban just didn't get what he was saying. It wasn't as though it was obvious that his jumpsuit had AI. And while this guy looked in awe if the programming for its behavior was flawed.
Well, you should know that there's nothing at fault with my attire's AI. And even if there were, that would make it a bad buy.
Alright. You know what, bruh? Never mind.
He replied as he went on his way. And so, Bizzleban continued his trek. But shortly after, he spotted a chick.
Hey, lady,
he said as he approached.
Hey.
She replied with an untrusting tone.
How do you like to spend your time in this park?
Just by walking.
She responded, not wanting a conversation to start.
Oh, walking? How do you do that while talking? What's another activity that you do for a lark?
There's really not much, man.
she muttered as she scratched a birthmark. As she said this, the young woman was looking down at her phone.
Well, it's clear that device easily takes your focus. Surely you do more than just examine it.
She looked up at Bizzleban, feeling confused and annoyed.
Boy, are you trying to get on my bad side?
Not at all, ma'am. I sincerely apologize. I'm a man who comes from afar. Now, how familiar are you or your friends with devices like that?
She awkwardly chuckled a little after his question.
Gotta say, you made quite an impression.
Bizzleban experienced a change in his facial expression.
Oh, that sounds bad. I apologize now for any future offense.
She snorted with laughter at his innocence.
Oh, it's okay. I'm still not sure what your deal is, but you're a little funny, I guess.
Thank you, lady. I try to impress.
Seldom had his planet's women given him a sincere compliment. As mentioned previously, they mainly made him feel like a simp. So, unsurprisingly, he grinned just a bit.
Yeah, no problem.
As she momentarily looked down at her phone, Bizzleban experienced a small surge of hope.
So, is there a way for us to get to know each other better?
Look, man,
she said in a tone that was sweeter.
You may be a nice guy and all, but...
The young woman struggled to find the right phrasing. She wanted to avoid hurting the strange gentleman's feelings.
But if I'm being honest, I don't think you'd want this. I'm not that good socially, and I'm kind of a mess.
Bizzleban looked at her as if she'd said something somewhat crazy.
I'll admit that I'm not an expert on women or people, but I don't need to be one to say that you, at the least, don't look like a mess. Your eyes are blue like the sky and there's a neat mark on your chest. Not looking like most people doesn't have to mean anything though. Well, except for the fact that you're a little special.
She looked at the gentleman momentarily, unsure how to respond. The lady then smiled slightly before introducing herself.
Well, thank you, but I'm not talking about how I look. Not like it matters though. By the way, my name's Brooke.
She held out her hand, but Bizzleban didn't know what that meant. So he just said his name as well and stuck out his hand. Fortunately, Brooke took it and shook it herself.
Where are you from? I really can't tell.
Somewhere far, far away. I don't want to dwell on that place though.
Alright, fair enough. How long have you been in the States, bro?
I arrived very recently, so I don't know all that much. Maybe, ma'am, you could teach me some stuff.
She giggled a little after being called ma'am once again, and told Bizzleban that to be called an older woman.
Oh, I understand. Thanks for letting me know.
Her phone proceeded to buzz.
I gotta go. I'll tell you more about America if I see you again, though.
She waved him goodbye, and he wasn't sure how to react, which resulted in him just saying, "Alright," and hesitantly waving back. He then took a moment to just stand there, unsure of what to do next. Should he go after her and make sure they stay in contact somehow? Or should he just move on and hope for the best? Time was slipping from his fingers, but he feared coming on too strong. So Bizzleban did something that he wouldn't have expected. He wound up going after the young woman, but not to get her attention. In other words, he went after her in secret. But don't mistake Bizzleban for some sort of creep. His intent wasn't to locate her home, but to learn more about the females of the species. And more about her in case he came across Brooke again. Okay, it was a bit creepy, sir, that's fair to admit, but at his heart, he was a true gentleman. His intent had just been to listen to her phone conversation as she departed from the park. But when that point came, he realized he might as well leave too. After all, next to no one was around besides the chick and young dude. And so, although without the desire to follow the lady, he also left the area and decided to go somewhere shady. Specifically, he went to a tree where a familiar face was standing underneath.
Oh, hey,
muttered the young fellow from before, looking up from his phone briefly.
Hey again,
Bizzleban replied.
Kid, could you possibly give me some advice?
Sir, he said, wanting to be nice.
Much obliged. Where I come from, the girls are different from the ones here in the States. So please tell me things about them, especially stuff that seems strange.
The kid proceeded to chuckle for a short time.
Well, bruh, you should know that girls really ain't worth the stress. I know because my older sister, she knows what she's talking about, more or less. Generally, chicks are irritated more easily and complain more than us dudes do. For kind of good reason, though. They got more stuff to deal with than we've got to.
Oh, well, complaining isn't too bad,
Bizzleban told him honestly.
What kind of stuff do you mean, though?
He asked with sincere curiosity.
may be the same in your country, but in America, women gotta be safer on the streets. Men may catcall them, or worse, so they gotta be more discreet.
As the kid answered this, a recognizable passerby inserted himself into the conversation.
Now, don't get me wrong, that's an issue and all,
Said the young adult man. He had apparently come back to put some keys he had lost back into his pocket.
but can we as a society please focus less on the problems of women?
Both the kid and Bizzleban were now looking at the dude.
What do you mean? Being a guy ain't the best, but it beats stuff like PMS, periods, and stupid expectations. So I feel like any struggles we do have are okay to somewhat neglect.
Well, you're not entirely wrong, but feminism is all most people ever talk about. But what about how guys die earlier and more often, or how boys are more likely to fall behind in education? That results in more homelessness and more dudes in prison. And because of that second part, criminal courts are biased against men.
As much as Bizzleban wanted to learn more about this planet's people, he felt weird listening in, as he could barely contribute. Yet that's what he did as the conversation went on. He learned how women's clothing was flawed in multiple aspects. On top of that, he heard a rant about paternity fraud's consequences.
Oh, my bad, dude. These discussions tend to be cut short,
Said the young adult man.
I hope you two weren't talking about something more important before my retort.
Bizzleban smiled and shook his head no. It's okay, man. You guys go ahead. Despite the fact that Bizzleban then walked away, he mentally remained in the same place. After all, these really were things that he should keep in mind. Was it worth staying on Earth despite all the problems that guys were more likely to face? And what about the risk of making the girls' lives more irritating? Bizzleban didn't know what to do. It was so aggravating. It was then that he walked by a middle-aged, bearded man.
Sorry to bother, but surely you've got some money on you. My family is struggling, but even $1 will do,
Said the man who had holes in his shoes.
Unfortunately, I don't have any money. However, I hope you won't mind if I now ask you for something.
Tell me, young man. If it's advice, I can give it.
Yes, please. That'd be terrific. You see, I came to America because I'm a bit lonely. I didn't fit in with the guys where I'm from, and that resulted in me feeling quite glum. It also didn't help that the girls were rather sucky.
I'm sorry to hear that, young man. How did they suck?
The women back home just didn't respect me that much. The ones I met, at least, weren't the most amenable bunch. And no matter what I did, I never managed to get one to develop a crush.
Well, that's simply a result of bad luck and perhaps bad taste in women. Why exactly do you want them to crush on you anyway, kiddo?
Because if they don't, then I have to ask them out. And, well, if I have to do that, then it's suddenly possible for me to get rejected.
The older man chuckled before he responded.
I know that it's rough, kid, but you're just gonna have to deal with that possibility. Whatever you end up feeling will eventually fade. Not long after that, it'll entirely go away. Besides that, what makes you think you need a lady in your life? You're young, so why not just be single for some time?
It feels right to try now, though, especially since I'm in my prime. Plus, I like that ladies are generally sweeter than guys. If I had a lover, I'd have someone who I could cry and be vulnerable with. I'm not emotional, though. I just know that I want this.
The bearded individual then smiled a bit.
You can be emotional with good guy friends, too. And trust me when I say that when the time comes, you'll still be able to enjoy love.
Alright, but with all due respect, I'll need more than trust in order to believe that.
I understand, young man, so I'll tell you about my experience. When I was around your age, I'll admit that I was also romantic. Young love is great, don't get me wrong there. However, as you grow older and become more mature, you'll notice something. Relationships will start to lose their superficial allure. Now, if you still want to be in love sooner, then start to work on yourself now. That way, you're better off in the future. I'm not saying read a self-help book. Those can be wastes of money anyhow. Just value yourself to be a respectable man, but don't act holier than thou.
What does that mean?
Don't act like you're better than others. Just act as if you're being watched by your mother. It's called integrity, sonny.
Fair enough. I must say, you're wise. I do have one more thing to ask, though, if you don't mind.
Thank you. And not at all, go ahead.
What if I'm nervous that I'll just bother women? I mean, the two sexes both here and where I come from are oh so different.
It's just like I told you before. Younger men are bolder but less effective because they have more to learn. Now, you'll still be attracted to the girls with the curves or whatever you're into. You just won't objectify them because you'll know that it's demeaning to do so. I can tell you mean well, though, so don't worry much about making ladies uncomfortable. Just keep on being yourself and maybe call out those perverted guys. Through criticism, we can make the world better one step at a time.
Bizzleban grinned widely, as he truly felt enlightened.
Thank you so much, man. In return for your knowledge, I hope that this crystal counts as valid payment.
He reached into his pants pocket and pulled out a diamond. It wasn't that big, but the size was somewhat impressive.
You are most welcome, but is that what I think it is?
This is a diamond, a real one, but I don't know how much they're worth here.
The older individual grinned.
Well, I have an idea. I'm very, very grateful for the gift. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must show my wife and kids this.
You are most welcome as well,
Bizzleban said as the man jogged away. Then the alien gentleman just stood there for a moment, weighing his options. Should he stay on this planet and learn more from its people? Or should he return to Soysock with what he had already learned? He wasn't going to get anyone's input, of course, as that'd just be silly. Despite how much Bizzleban had grown to like humankind, he still wasn't ready to reveal that he was, in reality, an extraterrestrial in disguise.